We are live now. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to SAPMUN Digital Conference 2020, a debrief on rules of procedure. I'm Jassim Siraj, the president of SAPMUN 2020. St. Aloysius Pre-University Model United Nations is an academic simulation of the UN. Before we start the orientation, I'd like to introduce to you all Mr. Pradeep Shenoy, an entrepreneur and technology professional who co-founded and is an executive director of iPoint Consulting Services. SAPMUN 2020 is proud to be associated with DSA Labs, a training service designed and developed by iPoint. Welcome to you, sir. I'd request Mr. Pradeep Shenoy to tell us more about data science and analytics. So please carry on.
Okay, thank you, Jassim, for the introduction. Let me be very brief. I'll speak about three things. Number one, what is data science? Number two, what do we do at DSA Labs? And number three, our association with SAPMUN 2020. Right. So everybody understands what data is, right? That doesn't require any introduction. But let me slightly explain what is data science in simple words. Right? So data science is two words, data and science. So data science is a multidisciplinary field that extracts concepts from statistics, mathematics, computer science, and of course the domain to extract knowledge or extract meaning from data, which will be relevant and useful for making decisions. So just putting some method into madness, because you see a whole lot of data floating around in the world, and which some of which is relevant, some of which is not relevant. And data science is about applying all these principles, concepts, tools, etc. that is available at our disposal today to make sense of data. And that's data science. And what do we do what is DSA Labs? So DSA Labs is a unit of iPoint, which we created very recently. iPoint has been there since the last 12 years. We are a learning and development organization. We partner with corporates and higher education institutions, basically to create talent. So we are a talent development organization working with corporates and higher education institutions. Our focus largely has been creating talent for the IT industry into various streams, project management and legal compliance. There are a wide variety or portfolio of programs iPoint is involved in. DSA Labs is a very exclusive, I would say, shop which we created primarily for creating talent in the field of data science. And we have a wide range of training and certification programs targeted at graduates or people undergoing graduation, and people working also who want to get into this career stream of data analysis, data science, data analytics, business intelligence. There are different terminologies that are associated with that. So that's what we do. We help people to build skills that are relevant today, and help people to move on to the stream of data science and analytics. So that's what we do. And it's a new, I would say, launch, a new brand within iPoint for creating talent here. And number three, our association with SAPMUN 2020. Of course, there is a self-interest of promoting our brand. That apart from that, critically, we believe that simulation events that St. Aloysius PU students have taken on is a very important and very, I would say, relevant, I would say, kind of event for us, primarily for many reasons. Number one, this concept of simulation of United Nations, Parliament, etc. Basically, we believe creates awareness about a lot of issues which are relevant to this country and the globe. And even at I would say level of students, though we are not policymakers here, but definitely these are concerns of tomorrow. or concerns of the future which need to be addressed. So this kind of an event can create awareness about all those issues which have very complex dimensions like politics, geopolitics, economics, socio-cultural dimensions, wide complex issues which we don't have easy solutions for. And by getting people to debate and simulate real things, right? Obviously, you are going to create a lot of awareness, and it also brings in a lot of wider perspective where multiple people coming from various, I would say, colleges and institutions helps basically to create a whole lot of, I would say, knowledge for people who participate, people who watch, etc. So that's a very critical value that we see. Number two is basically building skills among people. Of course, you are all quite young, and you are the future of this country. And over a period of time, you will have to get into the society and become a very productive citizen and very I would say contributing citizen to this country and the globe. And we believe that definitely such an opportunity, this kind of an event creates opportunity for people to really come together, debate, discuss. I would say like a more of a laboratory where you can experiment things, right? So very similar to that, you can really come out with the debates and various aspects of these issues. So though I don't expect that you'll come up with some magical solution for it, definitely by experiencing itself gives you, I think, enough pedestal to go for a higher pedestal as you build your career. And over a period of time, I hope that some of you will really achieve great things, right, in the society. So having said these two things, we are extremely delighted to be associated with this event. And I wish a great success to the organizing team. I'm pretty sure they've put a lot of hard work into making this work. And definitely, I wish great success to all these people who participate. And I also wish all others who would like to watch really to get a benefit out of watching, observing things, and learning from it. And thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to be part of it.
Yes, sir, you're welcome. And thanks a lot. We are really proud at SAPMUN to be powered by DSA Labs. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. Coming back to our original purpose of today, the orientation, a debrief on the rules of procedure, we at SAPMUN follow the UNA USA rules of procedure. To give you a detailed explanation on our rules of procedure, we have Sasha Desouza, the former Secretary General of SAPMUN and the chair of the UNW. A warm welcome to you, Sasha.
Thank you, Jasim. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. It's been a year, but it feels like I've not left at all. But anyway, I'm going to jump right in because I'm sure everyone has a lot of work at home and they've taken this time apart to sit and listen to us. So I'm going to jump right in. So I'm going to introduce myself first, and I'm going to tell you why I can tell you something that you don't know. Now, my name is Sasha. I am a former student of Aloysius itself. I'm a very proud former student of Aloysius. And it's been quite a journey at Aloysius and through Munning. And I feel like a lot of what I am now is because I chose to do what I did in my PUC days. And yeah, I'm studying philosophy in Sophia's. And Munning is my passion, and it's been for some time now. And it was all I did for as long as I can remember. So yeah, I hope I can help you guys as much as I can. So I'm going to jump right in now. Let me, for those who are coming here for the first time, who don't know what an MUN really is, I understand that it's very overwhelming because it's not like any other form of debate. It's a very structured and systematic form of debate. So now, let me tell you what happens. So we have about, let's say, 100 delegates now, okay? You 100 delegates will be put into 5 different rooms of 20 each, and you'll be given one leader that will guide you for the rest of the conference. This leader is called a chairperson, okay? And now this chairperson moderates and makes sure that you guys are talking sense and you guys are going in the right way you're supposed to be. They're in no way superior to you or anything like that. They're just helping you out to make sure that the end result of these 3 days that you're going to spend meticulously debating and talking about these problems that have been given to you all don't go to waste and it goes to one endpoint. Okay, so what happens in these committees? I'm sure all of you guys have been allotted your committees and you've been given your agendas and your portfolios. So your portfolio is basically your committee and your role in the committee, which is your country. Now, let's say, for example, we're in the United Nations Security Council and I've been given the country USA. That means that I am the delegate of USA and I am representing all that my country holds, all the policies, all the ideologies, everything that the country holds. And I debate as not as myself. I'm not Sasha anymore. I am the delegate of USA and I uphold all the values that US upholds. So that's what we call representation. Okay. So we represent not our personal values. We might not personally believe in what we're saying, but if the country we're representing says this, we have to adhere to it. Okay. Next, we move to the languages that are recognized. I'm assuming that most of you will be using English, but apart from English, we have other languages like Mandarin, Spanish, Chinese, Arabic, and a few other languages that are recognized by the United Nations that will be used. But I am sure you'll have to inform your organizing council if you want to talk in Arabic, because we might have to make a few arrangements for that. Anyway, moving on. So now to start a committee, we need to have a minimum amount of delegates present. For example, if your teacher has to come into class and she sees the class a little empty, she's going to count and see how many people are there to see if maybe the number is fair enough to the others. This is called the quorum. You guys can write this down if you like. Quorum spelled Quorum. Okay, now quorum is the minimum number of delegates required to commence the um, debate. Okay, and this number is 1/5 of the committee's strength. Okay, so 1/5 as in if there are 50 delegates in the committee, we would need a minimum of 10 delegates to start committee. I hope I'm clear so far. This is all the easy skimming parts. Now we get to the real part of the debate. Okay, so what happens when we start debate? When we start debate, I'm sure your chairpersons will give you a brief as well if you have any more doubts. But as soon as we start, we usually look for something called the filing of the position paper. Okay, so now this position paper is basically a piece of document, a document that you make. It's almost formal, it's not very rigid, but it's a formal piece of paper that you make that states your stance on the agenda. For example, now, if I am the delegate of, let's say, Saudi Arabia, okay, and we are in the committee UN Women, and we're talking about giving voting rights to women, and my country might not be, might not necessarily be for it, and that's why my position paper will state that we are not for this because of so reasons, or because our country believes in these ideals, and that is why that will be the content of your position paper. But then again, a position paper might not always be required, so you will have to ask your chairperson if it's required or not, because sometimes what happens is that all the countries believe in one specific way. For example, if we're talking about rights of children, no country is ever going to say we don't want to uphold the rights of our children. No country is going to say we want our children to starve, correct? Which is why you need to clarify with your executive board whether they want a position paper at the beginning of the debate or not. Okay. Moving on, once your position papers are filed and looked at, the executive board is going to start something called the speakers list. And I suggest you guys write this down. A speakers list. Okay. So a speakers list is a 90-second speech made by every delegate in alphabetical order. Okay. And once this, okay, so what happens when you get your turn? So when it comes to your turn, basically whatever's in your position paper, you will have to do it orally. I'm not saying read it out. It's better if you don't read it out and you present it as bad or as good as your language is. Because the executive board really looks at people who want to present and take charge in committee rather than people who have beautiful language or like amazing debate skills. Because at the end of the day, it's not how you say things, it's what you say. Okay. So the speakers list is basically anything and everything under the sun, but that comes under the agenda. For example, now let's say we're talking about pollution. Okay, so we could talk about air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, waste pollution. Everything under pollution is what we can talk about. But now we need to keep in mind that during the speakers list, you need to make it as clear as possible for the other delegates as well as the people in committee and your executive board and even maybe press people who are going to come in. And you need to make sure they understand exactly what your stance is. So now there are other instances where you might not know your stance because the country might be divided. For example, if we're talking about abortion rights in a country like USA, there are places like Texas that are a big no on abortion. And there are other states like Washington that allow it. So you need to understand exactly what your country stands for. And your research is is the key technically for this, because unless you do your research really well, you're not going to understand what your country stands for and what you would be able to speak about the agenda. I'm going to take a small pause here. And Jassim, I want you to check if there are any questions leading up till now, because otherwise the bulk of questions is going to become too much. So Jassim, can you please check and
Yes,
see if
Sasha.
the delegates have...
I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you earlier.
No, but
Okay.
take,
Yeah.
tell
So
me any question.
we have few questions, and we have
Tell me
had
the
a
name of the
wonderful.
delegate as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. So we have Arushi Singh telling us, please brief us about Lok Sabha as well.
Okay.
There's a follow up. I know what they're talking about. So Aditya Arun has asked, as you had said, we are delegates of countries, but for Lok Sabha, what do we do?
Okay. Okay. Guys, don't panic. Okay. I understand this is very overwhelming because let me, before answering any questions, let me tell you about my first MUNing experience. Because when I'm on this side now, it's very easy for you guys to look up to me and to think I'm this MUN god when I am not. Okay. I'm going to tell you about my first MUNing experience. So my first MUNing experience happened when I was in 8th grade, and I just joined because my friend was going. I was not necessarily inclined towards the idea of going and standing for 3 days and researching and going to study more about something. And it just escaped me that I have to go to a competition and I actually have to study for it and go. And I was just like, this is not okay. This is not cool. But I thought, you know what? Let's go and try anyway, because I'm going to get to dress up for 3 days and go and click photos. So that's how it actually began. So I am very much normal, like a lot of you out there today. But when I went there for the first time, I realized that I was always, at that point, very good at debate. I was always good. But then I realized that MUNs are so competitive in such a way. It's because it's not just any normal debate. You're not just talking about whether roses are better than dahlias, or you're not just talking about how maybe about the politics of your country. You're talking about such big pressing issues that your mind technically opens up to think about so many other things, right? So I walk into my committee on the first day after taking all the photos that I had to, and I enter my committee and I see two people sitting on a big desk, and there are about 10 tables with two placards on each table, and I go look for my country. And I don't know how, but my first MUN, my first committee session, I was the delegate of USA in UNSC. And as you guys do more MUNs, you're going to realize how problematic that is. But yeah, I was given the delegate of USA. I was the delegate of USA in UNSC. So I was the most powerful delegate, but I had no idea what I was going to do. So I went there, and obviously on the first day I hadn't prepared because I thought, you know what, I'll just go sit there. So I sat there and I listened to everybody talk, and I listened to how everyone had such innovative solutions and such beautiful thoughts about how we could fix whatever we were talking about. I do not remember what we were talking about. But that was my first MUN. And sitting there, I realized that, you know what? I don't want to be a delegate that just sits and watches people talk. I want to be a delegate that that actually makes a point. I want to be the delegate that people remember. And at that time, I had seen a video at the closing ceremony, and it was about the championship MUN, which is the biggest, the most prestigious conference that organization holds, and it's a very expensive MUN too. It's about 35,000 per delegate to go and just participate, and it's the most brilliant people that you will find, the best of the best money minds that you will find. And I made a promise to myself. I said, see, this year I'm a delegate. Next year, when this same conference happens, I will chair. And it happened. And trust me, guys, if you guys are really interested, money is not something that's very light. You might think that it's just going to remain for your college days, but trust me, whenever you're looking for a job or you're looking for I'm not very old. I just did a few internships, and but just looking at the fact that you've participated in an MUN or won an MUN actually holds so much weightage that I cannot believe. And you actually wouldn't believe till you actually put in the position. So anyway, moving on to Arushi's question about Lok Sabha. So basically, Lok Sabha is the um, Indian parliament, correct? So we are representatives not of the whole country as such, but of political ideologies. Okay. So you will have to first recognize whether you're okay. I'm going to move to researching methods later, but in Lok Sabha, what will happen is so in the normal Lok Sabha, what happens is people, each representative comes and talks about the problems in their area or the problems that they are specifically inclined towards. For example, Shashi Tharoor has been speaking about um, legalization of marijuana for some time in the Lok Sabha now. So that is something that he personally believes in. So you will have to research based on your portfolio, and the portfolio of a person in the Lok Sabha is different from any other UN committee, is because the UN committee talks about an entire country, but yours will be divided based on the party that you give. For example, if I have been given, let's say, Rahul Gandhi, okay, everyone knows Rahul Gandhi. I hope everyone knows Rahul Gandhi. Okay. So Rahul Gandhi, you will have to talk about his ideologies, personal ideologies, and of his party. And I hope you guys know it's Congress. Okay. So let's say, for example, we're talking about same-sex marriage legalization of same-sex marriages or homosexual marriages. Then we will talk about how, let's say I am now Rahul Gandhi. So I'll talk about how Rahul Gandhi usually talks in the Lok Sabha. So basically what happens is you have to form solutions, but based on the ideologies that they have. Okay, so think as them. What would they do? I'm not saying just read statements that they have made before. You can quote them. It's always good to quote people, but you will not, it won't be your personal view. It'll be your party view. Okay. And you need to keep in mind one very important thing when it comes to being in the Lok Sabha. You will have an excellent chair. Your chairperson is one of the most brilliant Lok Sabha minds I've ever met in my life. He's great. He's extremely funny, so he'll help you guys out, and I'm sure he'll tell you this as well. But there is something called defection. Do you guys know what defection is? I'm going to give you 1 minute. If anyone, no googling this, but if you guys know what defection is in your own minds, just send Jasim a text. Do you guys know what defection is?
I guess there's a 30 seconds delay from the live. So whatever you're saying now comes 30
Okay.
seconds later, because I'm getting good comments on Rahul Gandhi right now.
Okay. Moving on then. I'll move
Yeah.
ahead then.
Yeah,
So defection is basically when it's basically cheating. Okay. So for example, now there are 50 people that there are 50 seats in the Lok Sabha. Okay. Just imagine, there are not 50 seats in the Lok Sabha. There are highly more. But let's say there are 50 seats in the Lok Sabha. Okay. And we have a 20-20 tie. Okay. And we're wondering now who's going to take office. So um, I'm going to say party A and party B because I don't conform with any ideologies. So party A thinks we really need to win this. Somehow, anyhow, we need to win this. Similarly, party B is like, hook or crook, we're winning this. So party A sends a few of its representatives to maybe persuade a few of these other representatives to come on this. Okay. And it might not be as direct as that because there's an anti-defection law that was introduced by the Rajiv Gandhi government. So basically, under that, you're not supposed to either move to another party after you've been given a seat, after you won the election, and you're also not supposed to speak against your party, and you're not supposed to vote against your party whip like a whip. Okay. So a whip is basically your party ideology. So you're not allowed to see, like say for example, now if you find a dude from BJP enjoying a beef steak on his um, Instagram story, it'll be slightly problematic. So just look at it like that. You are not allowed to oppose your party ideology in any way because you are a representative not of the country, not of the state, but you are a representative of your party in the country or the state. You understand? Okay, now I'm going to give you. Okay, the next question, Jasim. There was another question
So,
about the Lok Sabha.
yeah, let me just go through that. Give me a minute.
And Jasim, next time you want to interrupt me, just do this so that I can just wrap up the question.
I'll do that. Okay. So, how and when do we submit the position paper?
Okay, so this is not a very formal thing. So, for example, I am the chairperson. I'll just come and say, and if I'm the chairperson and I have asked for position papers explicitly, then you guys make position papers because. Say, for example, your committee does not need a position paper, like I said about the children's hunger cause and all that. Then you will not have to make it. So let's say your chairperson does need you to do the position paper. He will just come and collect it. He or she will just come and collect it at the beginning of the conference. For example, when I just, but we are not, this is an online amendment. I almost forgot. So I think on Zoom, when we ask you guys for it, you can just either mail it to us or since we have a WhatsApp group, I think it's better to send it on the WhatsApp group so that other people can also access it and read it and understand your position. Okay. Next question, Jasim.
So, next question was: are the ROP going to be different for Lok Sabha from the UN committees?
There are slight differences, but honestly speaking, I am not an expert in Lok Sabha. I know quite a lot about Lok Sabha committees. I've chaired a few, but your chairperson Kunal is a genius when it comes to this. So he will see most of the gist remains the same, the idea remains the same, but the names of the statements or the, let's say, like a few things differ a little, like voting. And I'm not very sure if your chairperson is going to use those. But if you listen to what I have to say and then listen to what he has to say also, it's not going to be very difficult to understand. Okay, so there'll be minute changes, not radical changes. So don't worry. So the difference is mainly that okay, so the first difference, actually, the most outstanding difference, is that in an international committee, we never use personal pronouns. We never say, I believe. We say the delegate of Sasha Desouza believes, or the delegate of country X believes. But in Lok Sabha, since you are representing people and not countries, you're allowed to use personal pronouns.
Okay, and another thing I wanted to mention was on 14th, we'll have a committee-wise orientation. So in that time, you all can get a detailed explanation for the Lok Sabha if you are a delegate of Lok Sabha. And your chair will be doing it, so there will be a rapport built. You'll know exactly how your committee proceedings will go.
You know, whenever I'm telling you guys about a committee, this is my interpretation of the rules of procedure that I have. So I've been to a lot of MUNs, okay, and this is what I've seen the general public or usually chairpersons look at. But then again, there are a few tweaks that chairpersons usually tend to make in their ROP to make it more convenient for them. Okay, so just keep an eye out for that. And the most important thing that you guys should do is ask questions. Ask as many questions as you can to the chairperson. Irritate them, because that's our job. We're supposed to make sure that you have left this conference a little wiser than you were. Maybe something or the other you have to take from a conference. It could be a friend, it could be something the chairperson said, it could be an issue that you think is now more relevant to you. It could be anything. Okay, are there more questions?
We have a request from Angela Sharon. Can you elaborate on what should be said for the speakers list?
I was just coming to that. I'll give me 2 minutes. If there's another question, I'll just finish off the questions and I will move to a more detailed thing on the speakers list.
So we are getting answers on the defection now.
That's more than 30 seconds.
Shreyas Hegde has asked if there's a dress code. On the first day, we'll be following Western formals. On the second day, Indian traditionals. And on the third day, Western formals again. We would be greatly honored, and it would be very advisable for the delegates to put on their video cameras during the sessions, because I believe it will bring a sense of interaction, and it won't be a very deviating or very low committee session. It will have a life.
Correct. I believe so too, because see, even right now for me, I'm sitting in front of a screen when I would have been sitting or standing in front of 200 odd people, and it does get a little difficult. And this is a short amount of time. This might be at the most 1.5, 2 hours. But if this has to go on for 5 hours a day, 2 days, it might be a little difficult for our interaction to happen. And all I want for you guys is very fruitful, good debate, because I want more of you to understand and recognize how beautiful money is and what as amazing as an experience it is. Okay, so I'm going. Are there any more questions?
Luke has asked, how do draft resolutions work in an online one? I'm sure we'll get to the resolution later on.
Yeah, resolution. I don't usually explain the resolution on the first day. I usually suggest that we explain the resolution just before the day that we do it, because it's fresher in your mind, and a draft resolution shouldn't be the first thing that comes to your head right now. I want you guys to focus more on the debate, because in an online MUN, okay, I'll just go ahead and answer this question. So in an online MUN, what happens is we should all make a doc. Okay, what I did in my previous online MUN that I organized is I asked my chairpersons to make a Google Docs and then work on it simultaneously and be on call while it happens. So you can always work together when it happens. Okay, and that later on is sent to me. I ratify it. I'll send it back to you. Then the voting happens, and then committee hopefully passes. Okay, no more questions, Jasim?
Actually, we have quite a few questions. So
okay.
Do we continue with the questions, or do you want to skip it for now and continue explaining?
Let's do one thing. Let me explain one point. Okay. And then we will.
Sure, we'll get back to the questions.
So the speakers list. Let me give you an example, because without examples, you won't understand this. So let's say, for example, we're talking about empowerment of women. Okay. So that is our agenda. Okay, the entire agenda is empowerment of women. Let's think we're in the General Assembly. Okay, and now, for example, the delegate of India comes ahead, and the delegate of India will start by saying, so now you have 90 seconds. Okay, you have 90 seconds to declare your stance. So delegate of India will come up and say, uh, good evening, delegates and respected chair and executive board and all the members of the press. Delegate of India is very delighted to be given the opportunity to speak in the General Assembly. The delegate of India believes that our country is a difficult place for women to live in, but are continuously striving for better. The delegate of India also believes that the government is working. You get it? So basically, everything that your country believes in when it comes to the agenda has to be stated. Okay, it doesn't have to be super detailed. It doesn't have to be super fancy. You just have to convey that you are either for the topic, against the topic, whether you don't have a stance, but basically it just clarifies your stance. Okay, but then again, a speaker's list doesn't happen just once. Okay, let me explain the process to you. So the speaker's list goes in alphabetical order. What I mean when I say this is that it'll go, let's say, for example, it'll go to Afghanistan, not Barbados, Afghanistan, Brazil, China, Ecuador, France, Ghana, Holland, whatever. It just has to keep going on. Okay, so it goes in alphabetical order, and every delegate is given 90 seconds. That's a minute and a half. Okay, so a minute and a half. The first speakers list, I suggest that you talk about your stance, but from the second speakers list onwards, because it doesn't exhaust. It keeps going on and on and on and on and on. And maybe from the your second turn onwards, you can talk about anything that comes under the agenda, anything and everything under the agenda. For example, if you're talking about empowerment of women, we can talk about so many things under it, like education of women, employment for women, domestic abuse, sexual exploitation, protection of women, reservations, so many things that come under it. So you talk about each and every one of them as uh, much as you want under your speakers. Now, let's say, for example, I have not used my 90 seconds. I've been able to use just 60 seconds. So what happens to the remaining 30 seconds of time that I have? So when this happens, we have something called a yield, okay? Jasim, can you just type out yield for them? Because I'm not sure if I can type it out here and they can see it.
Sorry, Sasha, was there a problem? I'm sorry, I couldn't. Sasha, I'm not sure if you're audible. Sasha, can you hear me? Sasha?
Is it better now?
Yeah, now you're audible. I
Oh,
guess it went on mute for quite some time and
oh
couldn't get
no.
it. So I think after the yield,
Okay.
I didn't hear it.
So, wow, I used some really nice examples there. Okay, anyway.
So sorry.
So yield, Y-I-E-L-D. We have three types of yields that we'll be recognizing in our conference. That is yield to comment, yield to question, and yield to another delegate. Okay. So let's say, for example, you have 30 seconds left, correct? So the chairperson will ask you, delegate, how would you like to yield your time? So you have three options to choose from. Okay. So now, depending on the time you have, the executive board will tell you what you can do with that time. Okay. If you have more than 15 seconds left, you can yield this time to another delegate. Okay. Let's say, for example, I have 30 seconds left, and I know that my alliance, I'm delegate of USA. I know that the delegate of Indonesia has a lot to say in her speech. So I'll yield my 15 or my 30 seconds to the delegate of Indonesia. So the delegate of Indonesia will have 30 seconds plus her 90 seconds to speak. Okay. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind, don't throw anyone off guard. Okay. For example, now don't just give it to some delegate that you don't like because you don't like them. Don't like discuss this before. Like, would you like my time? I have my content is very little. Would you like some time to speak more? So please talk about it. Okay. So moving on to our next yield, it's called the yield to question, and it sounds as simple as it does. Let's say, for example, we have 30 seconds left. The executive board will tell you you have 30 seconds left, and you will choose yield to question. Okay. When you choose yield to question, let's say the executive board thinks two questions are enough in 30 seconds of time. So two delegates will be given the opportunity to ask you a question based on the content of your speech during the speaker's list. Okay. Now, keep in mind, these yields can be used only when you don't exhaust the time in your speaker's list, but not other aspects of debate. Okay. So now the next point, the next yield is something called the yield to comment. And it's similar to the yield to question, except it's not a question that you ask, but you comment on the speech made by the delegate. And by comment, I don't mean something like you were really bad. I mean something like, okay, the delegate's speech should have had these points, or the delegate's speech, I commend the speech made by the delegate. You feel the points were good, then you say it's good. If you believe that they've missed out on some aspects, point those out. If you believe that, if you disagree with something, or you agree with it, or you want to add something, this is when you use it. Okay. But a comment cannot be, they can't reply back to a comment, but they can reply back to a question. Okay, I hope my explanation for yields is sufficient, because it's very simple. They might sound very jumbled up and mixed up now because of the confusion, but trust me, once you are in the first 10 minutes of debate, you'll understand this much better than just in theory. Jasim, I am done with this point. So just tell me the questions, maybe
Yeah,
5 questions at a time, and then I'll move back to our ROP.
yeah, sure. We had a question on how they will be made blocks by Luke. I would like to tell you that we have a option of break rooms in Zoom, where you can. I guess that will help you out. I believe in the orientation we'll have tomorrow, we'll give you a detailed explanation on how to use it and how you will go through the whole process.
Okay.
And just going through a lot of questions.
Any questions, Jasim?
Just a second. Uh, Akul Rajesh asked if you could explain in brief about Daisek. I'm sure this one is for the tomorrow's orientation.
Can you come again, Jasim? I did not hear you.
Okay, Akul Rajesh asked if you could explain in brief about Daisek.
About Daisek.
Daisek, yeah.
Daisek. Okay, so Daisek is, I'm not sure, I don't remember the agenda as such, but let me give you like a brief explanation of what your committee does. Okay, Daisek is the full form is Disarmament and Security Council, and they deal with everything about security, wars, and their main objective is disarmament. And disarmament is basically trying to retract all kinds of forces and all kinds of nuclear weapons and all kinds of other weapons that we have now. So basically, the ideology is that to decrease the amount of conflict among nations and increase security as a world community. Okay, so disarmament, Daisek would talk about nuclear warfare, drone warfare, talk about security of soldiers, talk about um, a lot of things. Just all comes under war strategy and things like that. So I hope you research along those lines. But basically, the main objective is to increase the security and increase friendliness among nations for the end objective of disarmament. Okay, just the next question, please.
In the case of yield to questions, are we able to delay a response or choose not to answer?
Correct. Okay, so okay. So you can choose not to answer. So there is no compulsory, there's no compulsion, but it's always better to not say I don't know. It's always better to say I'll answer you later via chit. I was just going to come around to chits. So chits are basically in a normal committee in real life, we would have used chit pads and we would have written it down and sent it to, fro, etc. But I think on Zoom we have personal chat, no, Jasim, where
Yeah,
we can
so
address it to one
to the
person.
delegates, if you have to send a chat to another delegate's chat, you can personally text them. Or if you want to send a chat to your chairperson, you can send it to the host, and the host will be the OC members, and they will rectify and then take it to their chairs as per the time serves.
Okay. So coming back to your question, I don't remember your name, I'm so sorry. But yeah, you can choose to delay your answer, but I would suggest that you don't and try to answer it as the question comes because it gives you a lot more points that you know things. But then again, don't just say some random thing. When you do get your question and you believe that you need to do a specific amount of research to get back to the person, then tell them that you'll get back to them via chat, or ask them for a minute. You can look through your notes, whatever you feel like you need.
So, will there be a negative marking if they choose not to
There's not,
answer?
there's no negative marking. We never have negative marking for an MUN. It's just we just give you what you deserve for that specific thing. Okay. So let's say, for
So,
example, one second, the
yeah.
maximum points that can be given to I give for answer to a question I yield is 2 points. And if they've excellently spoken right there, I'll give them 1.5 points. If they're so good that I feel like if I was the delegate in front of them, I would be embarrassed, I'll give them 2. If they have gotten back to the person and it's still a good argument, I'll still give them just 1 because you did not know it then. But it's not negative marking. It's just that there is a delay, right? You have to pay for the delay. That's it. And one more thing that you guys need to keep in mind when you're sending said JIT to another delegate that contains the answer of a question that has been asked in committee, then send it via the executive board because I would love to see the answer. Because it doesn't make sense if you're going to send it and you're not going to get marked for it, right? So yeah, when it comes back to chits, there are a few other chits that I would like to explain. There are 2 chits. One's an interactive chit or a communicative chit, and the other one is called a substantive chit. Communicative chit is just maybe you want to ask something, some random casual thing. But when it comes to a substantive chit, A substantive chit is a chit containing substance, um, which could be any information that you have not been able to give during committee time. For example, now I have a part of my speakers list that I believe doesn't fit in my next speakers list. It has to get over there. It doesn't match. So I'll put that as part of my substantive chit and send it to the executive board. So I can read it. You might not get as much as you would have gotten if you would have said it orally, but it's better than it going completely to waste, right? So yeah, any more questions, Jasim? Should I continue?
We don't really have the
Can you
questions.
be a little
I'm
louder?
pretty. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure we missed a few questions, but then as of now, I don't really think there's a lot of questions. And yeah, I think you can go ahead. If there is
Okay,
any, I'll.
okay. So you guys must be confused how this all fits in place, right? It just seems like a lot of hangama happening around. So what happens is first we usually go to the speakers list, okay? And once the speakers list is like a specific amount of delegates have spoken, let's say for example we have 50 in all, once maybe 20 have spoken, I'll open the flow for something called motions. Motions, motions, okay? Motions are basically requests, okay? So there are mainly two motions. One is a motion for, not mainly two motions that you guys would be using the most. One's a motion for a moderated caucus and the next for an unmoderated caucus. Okay, I'm going to type this out here. Jasim, can they see it when I type it out?
I don't really think so.
Okay, guys, tell us.
Yeah, I don't really think people can see it when you type it. So I think I'll just put it on the comments.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Moderated caucus and unmoderated caucus. Please type it out for me. Thank you, Jasim. Okay, so I'm moving on. So the moderated caucus is basically subdivision of the main agenda into more comprehensive sub-agendas. Okay, I know that sounds a little complicated, but let me give you an example. I love examples, if you guys noticed. Okay, let's say our agenda is a freshly baked pizza. Okay, it's just come out of the oven and it's not sliced. Okay, as much as we would love to eat the pizza just like it is, trust me, if I could, I would eat the entire pizza like that. But to make it easier to eat, what do? We slice it. We slice it and we make it more comprehensible. So that's what happens in a moderated caucus. Because our agendas are usually so vast, what we do is we divide it into more easier to discuss topics. For example, I'm going to use the same example as before. If we're talking about pollution, if we talk about just pollution at large, it becomes very difficult for us to reach a consensus about a solution or what we're talking about. And it gets difficult to understand the depth of the situation. So what we do is we divide it. We'll talk about air pollution first. We'll talk about the problems. We'll talk about what they're doing, what we should do, what the situation is in different countries. Then we move to soil pollution. We talk about what soil pollution is. We talk about how we can make it better. What is the problem we're facing? What are the countries that are relatively better at this, etc. And then we'll talk about water pollution, air pollution. So you understand that. So a moderated caucus is basically a form of informal debate. Okay, so we have two sections, formal and informal. And formal is just the speakers list, and everything else comes under informal. Okay, so there is something called how do I put this?
Couldn't hear you, Sasha. Sasha, you're on mute again. Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, now you're on.
Okay, I feel like okay. So there's something called verbatim. Okay, that is VERBATIM. Jasim, can you please
It's going in here.
verbatim? Can you type it out? Okay. So verbatim is basically the statement that you have to use when you're raising these motions. Okay. So for a moderated caucus, the statement is, guys, I think you guys should write this down. So I'll get your pens and books. I'll give you a minute in case you don't have it around. Okay. So a moderated caucus will be raised by the following verbatim. Okay. The delegate of X, write this down, guys. The delegate of X. Okay. X is your country, your portfolio. Or if you are in the Lok Sabha, the delegate of Rahul Gandhi, or the delegate of Sonia Gandhi, or the delegate of Narendra Modi, or the delegate of Shashi Tharoor, or the delegate of Amit Shah, whatever you are. So the delegate of X would like to propose a motion, would like to propose a motion, would like to propose a motion to suspend formal debate, to suspend formal debate, to suspend formal debate and move into a moderated caucus for the time duration dash minutes dash per speaker time per speaker dash minutes or dash seconds on the topic slash sub-agenda, topic or sub-agenda, whatever that is. Put a long dash there. Okay, I'm sure this sounds like alien language, but I'll say this in a go and I'll fill it up so you understand what it is. Okay, Jasim, please give me a go that all of these people have finished writing. I'm going to explain, I'm going to dictate it again. You guys please check for any errors because it's very important that you raise your motions in verbatim. Okay, so the delegate of X would like to propose a motion to suspend formal debate and move into a moderated caucus for time duration dash minutes or seconds for the time per speaker dash minutes dash seconds on the topic or sub agenda dash. Okay, so let me fill this up for you because I'm sure this sounds like what Hrithik Roshan used to call Jadoo. But okay, so let me fill this up for you. Okay, I'm the delegate of USA, and we're in United Nations Security Council, and we're talking about changing the time period for voting or changing the membership time for each member of the United Nations Security Council. So let's say, for example, I raise my placard, or in this case, I guess we'll just be raising your hands. You raise your hand, you'll be recognized by the chairperson. I'll say, okay, delegate of, the chairperson says, okay, delegate of USA. Delegate of USA stands up or just speaks in this case, says that the delegate of USA would like to propose a motion to suspend formal debate and move into a moderated caucus for time duration 1 minute, time duration 10 minutes, time per speaker 30 seconds on the topic change of membership period per member in the United Nations Security Council. Okay, I hope I'm a little more clearer now. So a few rules that you have to remember when it comes to a moderated caucus is that first, the maximum total time is 15 minutes for the entire moderated caucus. Okay, and what happens to this total time? So this total time is divided by the individual speaker time. let's say, for example, I've said total time is 15 minutes, and I say the individual speaker time is a minute each. That means that the total amount of speakers that will be able to speak on that topic, on that moderated caucus, is 15 people. Why? Because it's 15 minutes divided by 1 minute each. Okay, so now the person who raised this motion, I'm sorry, will, let's say it does pass, and this passes through something called voting. And for a moderated caucus, we use simple majority. Okay, simple majority is more than half. So just simple majority is half plus 1. Okay, 51%. So if we have 10 people, I need at least 6 people to agree with what I have to say for my motion to pass. So now when my motion does pass, I'm given the opportunity to choose whether I want to speak first or reserve my right to speak. Okay. So if, let's say, I do reserve my right to speak, then 14 people speak ahead of me, and then I'm the 15th person to speak, and that's where the moderated caucus ends. Now let's say, for example, Jasim is the delegate of USA, and he's raised this motion, and he raises it for 10 minutes. Okay. But there are 5, 6 more people who really want to talk about this, but there's no space on the list, right? Because we have initially started with just 10 names. So what do we do then? We can extend the moderated caucus. Okay. But while doing an extension, you must remember that the total time for discussion for this specific topic has been left at only 15 minutes. So like I said, Jasim said 10 minutes per person, but there are more people. So I want to extend it, but I can extend it only by half of how much I have sent it before. Okay, for example, if I set it for 10 minutes, I can extend it only by another 5 minutes. Okay, and another thing you need to keep in mind is the total time can always only be 15 minutes. Okay, so if it is, let's say, Jasim is chosen instead of 10, 12 minutes, he cannot have 12 plus 6. He has to have 12 plus 3, because 12 plus 3 is 15. Okay, you guys don't have to worry about the technicalities of it. That's why we are here. We do all the annoying math part and the screaming and the calling for you guys. You just have to stand up, make your point, and sit down. Okay, but it's just always better to know, because it's better to know about what is happening, rather than just being there. Okay. So another form of debate that we have is a slightly. I will just finish this last point, Jasim, and then we'll move to the questions.
Sure.
Okay. So there's another thing called the unmoderated caucus. Okay. So the unmoderated caucus is basically, let's say, free time given to you guys. Not really free time, but free time to use in committee. Okay. And during this time, what happens is you can either go talk to your delegates about what has to happen next. Okay, let's say, for example, from 1 hour, every motion is failing, nobody is making any points, and it's just a ruckus, like it's just a waste of time. At that time, Jasim is the leader delegate in committee. So he says, I want a unmoderated caucus. And then he goes to everyone and he says, you know what, guys, we need to maybe talk about this next, this specific topic. And then you all work on the topic together, not together, as in at the same time, you'll all work on the topic so you guys can all come and speak about it. Okay. What else happens in an unmoderated caucus? Now, in an unmoderated caucus, we also do something called our paperwork. I'll get back to you after answering a few questions about what this paperwork is. But you do your paperwork, you lobby. Lobbying is basically when you go to people and you convince them to be on your side, support your stance, support your motions, and to give whatever you feel is required. Okay, so you're basically going and talking and taking their support from you. Okay, and towards the third day, the unmoderated caucus will mainly be working on your draft resolution. But we'll get to that later, because if I get into that right now, there's going to be too much new information in your heads, and it's just going to get jumbled around, and it's not going to help anybody. Okay, So during the unmoderated caucus is the only time also that you can just chill also if you want to take your selfies or whatever. But thankfully in an online MUN, you won't have any time to do that. So you'll have to work most of the time. So another thing that I forgot to mention is that during the committee proceedings, you're not allowed to use internet. Okay, you can use your devices and you can refer to whatever you have to, but don't use internet. And I understand that if you guys would have been in my committee in real life, and I saw you guys using your internet, if you guys have been my delegates before and you've seen this happen, you understand how serious I am when I say this. But I will end y'all if y'all use internet when y'all are in committee. But since you guys are in your own homes and you guys have 2 devices, 3 devices, whatever it is, and it's easy for you guys to do that, just remember that you're only fooling yourself, and there's no point in doing all of that. Correct? Just be true to yourselves. I mean, that's the whole essence of a conference like this. Even though so many things are going wrong, we're still trying to, keep that hope alive and whatever it is. So that's it, I think, about unmoderated caucus. Yeah, so during the unmoderated caucus, you can use your cell phones and the internet. So use the unmoderated caucus time to do whatever work you need to do. Jasim, any questions?
Yeah, so we have a question asking if there will be moderated and unmoderated caucus in the Lok Sabha committee.
Jasim, I can't really hear you.
Okay, am I audible now?
Better.
Okay. So we have a question asking if we have moderated and unmoderated caucus in the Lok Sabha committee. Am I audible, Sasha?
Yes, you do. You do. See, the basic fundamentals of this entire conference will remain the same. Just a few small tweaks will be there. Small tweaks. Maybe I'm not really sure what happens now when I used to delegate and when I have chaired a Lok Sabha, I kept the rules of procedure exactly the same because I didn't see the point in changing it. But Kunal, on the other hand, is a Lok Sabha god. He is super Lok Sabha. So he'll tell you guys. But we do have a moderated and unmoderated caucus because basically the only reason that we have these is to make your debate a little easier because what happens is our agendas tend to be very vast, and if we talk about it like that, we don't reach any point together, understand, and we don't understand the depth of that problem because it seems very, you don't know where to begin. Basically, you can't just talk about, like I said, you can't just talk about pollution. You need to break it down and talk about how each of these things are affecting us and how we can help. Next question, Naseem.
No, that would be it. Am I audible, Sasha?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm really in love with our audience today. They have been very wonderful. Most of the questions have been answered by the comment section itself.
How
So,
sweet.
yeah, they're saving a lot of work. Anyway, we had a question who proposes the motions, and we got an answer, delegate. So, I guess that's it for now. You can carry.
Okay. So I'm now going to move to something called points. Okay. Points are basically somewhat like motions, but they're for smaller issues. Okay. Motions basically involve the entire committee, but a point might involve just 2 people or 3 people tops. It could involve the delegate that proposes this point and either the chairperson or another delegate or another 2 delegates. Okay. So write this down, guys. This is going to be required. We have 4 points that we usually consider in any MUN. This is constant for any MUN. The first point is the point of personal privilege. I'm going to list out these and just write it down as it goes. Or you know what, I'll explain each so that it's not tiresome for you guys. The first point is the point of personal privilege. Personal privilege is you guys just pointing out any personal discomfort you feel to the chairperson. It could be you need to go to the washroom, but I suggest you don't announce it every time you go. Just switch off your cameras, go do the needful and come back. Personal privilege is also, let's say, for example, like how I couldn't hear Jassim. I have to raise a point of personal privilege and ask Jassim to either speak louder, fix his mic, whatever you feel is required. Let's say, for example, Jassim is now a very lousy delegate and he keeps bouncing and going and checking his Snapchat on the way during committee session, and he misses out an important point, or he misses out the topic for the moderator caucus. So what happens is he will raise a point of personal privilege and say, "Ma'am, can I please have the topic repeated again?" So these are all kinds of personal privileges. But since you guys are going to, I hope, go to more MUNs after this as well, even the ones that happen in real life, maybe we have other kinds of personal privileges, like you need to be excused from committee, you have a phone call to attend to, you need the fan to be switched off, you need the delegate to be louder, you don't like the way the delegate is talking, you want the delegate to move further away, whatever it is, anything that makes you more comfortable, basically. Okay, so the second point is our point of information. Okay, point of information is basically yeah, a point of information in some MUNs is a factual inaccuracy, but the UNA USA ROP states that it is asking of a question, basically. So when you can't have a yield to question, but you have something that this delegate has said in their speech that is highly problematic. For example, let's say, again, I'm going to use Jassim. Jassim has said that, let's say, he's talking about how India is going to be the next industrial capital. It could be maybe something that India foresees in a long period of time. Maybe that's a goal that they have. But the delegate of China, which is highly industrialist, believes that it is not possible because you understand the problems behind it. So that's when the delegate of China will raise his or her hand when asked for points or motions. Okay, raise their hand, and the executive board will ask me, okay, what point or motion do you rise to? And at that moment, I state that I rise for a point of information. So when when I exercise my point of information, I get to ask Jassim maybe a clarification of what he said, or you ask him what do you think you're going to do in the next 5 to 10 years to become industrialist in the next 10 or 15 years. Understand? So it's any question you want to ask. Followed by the point of information, we have the point of order. So basically, the point of order is a factual inaccuracy or a deviation from the rules of procedure that you want pointed out. Let's say now, okay, I'm done troubling Jassim. I have said in my speech that India is the world's most populated country. And it might logically make sense in the next 5 years or next 10 years, where we are, I think, going to pass the numbers of China because of the population. But at this specific point of time, by the population survey, we are not the highest, most populated country. It happens to be China. So Jassim raises a point of order against me, saying that delegate of India believes that they are the most populated country, when the actual statement or the actual fact is that China is the world's most populated country. Okay, so point of information doesn't necessarily have to be oral; it can also be sent via chit. Okay, clear, guys? Okay, so our last point is our point of parliamentary inquiry. So a point of parliamentary inquiry is any question that you want to ask the executive board. For example, now there's something that you're not sure about what's going to happen next. You just want a clarification that you forgot, or you've forgotten something, or anything that you want to ask the executive board has to be asked through a point of parliamentary inquiry. So now, the order in which I stated this is the order of recognition as well. Okay. So the order of recognition, as in, if one person makes a point of parliamentary inquiry, one person makes a point of order, one makes a point of information, and one makes a point of personal privilege, then the order of recognition is, if I'm the chairperson, I will first recognize and act upon the point of personal privilege, followed by information, followed by order, followed by parliamentary inquiry. So when it comes to the point of order, which is pointing out a deviation in the rules of procedure, or pointing out a factual inaccuracy, it can also be you're pointing out something that the executive board has said. As we are obviously much more well researched than you guys are, we've been around for longer, but we're human too, and we can make mistakes. So please point out, don't be scared or shy about anything. Please be vocal. Okay, the whole point about getting 15 and 16-year-olds talking about things that 70-year-olds talk about in the world parliament is to make you guys feel more vocal and feel more responsible. So speak out. Okay, I missed out one important point, and that is, how do we start committee after position paper? Once we take out your position papers and once we ratify it and file it, we ask for something called the roll call. Okay, and it's basically like attendance, except we have two options. In class, you have to say present if you're there. You can't say absent. But when we have a roll call in an MUN, you have two options. It is present and voting. Okay. So the only difference between present and voting is that when you say present and voting, you know what your stance is going to be. Okay. For example, if you don't know your stance, then you can say present, because you are still figuring out what your stance is. Okay. But if you say present and voting, it means, okay, at the end of this, I am going to vote on the resolution. Okay. So what happens when you say present? When you say present, at the end of the voting, you have the option to abstain from voting. That is, you can choose to not vote on the resolution. But if you say present and voting, you have to vote on the draft resolution. Okay, I hope this is clear. Jasim, any other questions? Any questions?
Just a second. Okay, so Vandita has asked, who or what exactly is the executive board? I believe the executive board will be the chairpersons of all the committees.
Yes.
Sasha, is there anything else to add to it?
So in my committee, I believe there's just me as the chairperson. But when you have less talented chairpersons, you get a vice chairperson as well. I'm just kidding. So when you have a vice chairperson and a chairperson, and sometimes when the committee is really big, so I've chaired a committee that had 150 delegates. So it gets very difficult for one person or two people to sit and note it down. So sometimes in some MUNs, you have a rapporteur. And a rapporteur is someone who, or a rapporteur, as some people call it, but it's a rapporteur, is someone who takes down things. So your moderator, your chief moderator, whatever you call it. Some people call it moderator. We call it chairperson. Your chairperson, vice chairperson, and your rapporteur is your executive board.
So
are we done with questions, Jesse?
We have another question. I'm not really sure what it means. So the question is by Saumini Hegde asking, what about starred and unstarred questions in the committee?
Starred and unstarred.
Yeah, STARRED.
I will have to get back to you on that. As many MUNs as I've been to, I have never heard this ever.
Yeah, even I was pretty much confused.
No, but anyway, I don't think this is a part of the ROP that we'll be just ask them for a clarification, because I'm genuinely confused now. starred and unstarred. Maybe it's something that I have missed out on. Let me just get back to you guys. And one second, let me actually search for it.
I would request all the viewers, if at all you have any questions, please drop in the YouTube live chats so I can take it up to Sasha and she can reply to you all.
Okay. As I figured that would have been something related to the parliament is because I've been in a lot of events and I've never heard of this because I tend to move towards international committees. But a start question apparently is distinguished by an asterisk next to the question, and it requires an oral answer, and an unstarred answer can be replied with a written answer as well. Vandita, was it Vandita or Arushi? Was whoever you are? I'm sorry, I forgot your name, but was that what you were looking for? I hope that is what you're looking for. If not,
Yeah,
then I am.
Saumini.
Come
Yes, it was Saumini Hegde.
Okay.
Yes.
So I hope I've answered your question, but I don't think you'll be needing that in this conference or any few conferences.
So Saumini, I guess if you're in the Lok Sabha committee, you
Lok
would
Sabha,
get you could get a clear, detailed explanation about it tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, by.
Yeah, I'm sure Kunal will know this at the back of his hand because I just read about it. I just read it and Jasim, were you in Kunal's committee last year?
No, I wasn't. But then we have Yash Yadunath Alva telling Kunal had done it last year. So I'm pretty sure
He did?
Kunal.
Yes,
Yeah.
so he will.
So I'm
It's
pretty
it's
sure.
a it's a parliamentary thing. So a starred unstarred is what I've gathered from reading what I did just now. Is that a starred question has to be answered orally, and an unstarred answer can be sent in written format. Okay, I'm going to Jasim. Is there another question, or should I move on?
Someone wants to know what about the right to reply?
A right to reply, I was coming to that. So a right to reply, I am not sure if all of your executive board members or chairpersons are going to be okay with it, but you'll have to ask this to your executive board whether they'll be recognizing the right to reply. So for example, now, right to reply is basically when the delegate takes offense to something said. For example, now, let's take a lighter example than something very big. So there are two kids in uh, a playground, okay, and they're all one of the kid is Pakistani and the other is Indian, okay. So the Indian kid says to the Pakistani kid that our cricket team is so much better than yours. Your cricket team is useless, does nothing, okay. Maybe for the Indian sentiment, it could have been a woof factor, but the Pakistani kid took offense to this, and he runs and he goes and tells the okay, I did not think this through. Okay, they're not in a playground; they're in school. Okay, and they run to the teacher and they say, you know what? I felt very bad that he said this. So the teacher asks the Indian kid to give a written apology that he can file with the principal. Okay, so the principal here is the United Nations head body, okay, or just the idea of the head body in MUN, and the teacher happens to be the chairperson, and the two kids are two delegates. Okay, so for example, in someone's speech, someone has made an offensive statement like delegates of US usually do when it comes to the delegate of China or the delegate of North Korea. So if that person does take offense, then they can issue a right to reply, and then a written apology is this thing. Did I answer your question?
I guess that was pretty elaborate.
Okay.
So, Aditya Chandra wants to know, could you please tell about point of parliamentary inquiry?
Okay. So basically what you're doing right now is a point to parliamentary inquiry. Okay. Point of parliamentary inquiry. Okay. Just a correction. So any question that you want to ask throughout the days, when formal debate is happening, you can't just raise your hand and say, hey, ma'am, you can't do that. You have to raise your hand, say, point of parliamentary inquiry, you'll be recognized, and then just ask your question. Okay, that's it. Are we done, Jasim?
Yeah.
Okay. So I believe till here, I hope there are no questions. But okay. So what happens once we finish our moderated caucus? What is the point of talking about the moderated caucus? So after a moderated caucus, what happens is we file something or we make something called the working paper. Okay. And the working paper doesn't have any let's say format, but it's better to stick to the format that I'm telling you, because it's always better when you look at it that way. As a chairperson, when I look at your paperwork, if it's messy and dirty, I will not feel like reading it. But if it's in the specific format and it's systematically put together, then I'll feel like reading it, and it's just better that way. Okay, so start with writing working paper, and you can name it. Okay, just write working paper, whatever you want. Be creative with your names. I love it when they send me creative names. Okay, followed by the title of your working paper. On maybe the left hand side, write name of the committee, write the committee name that you're in, name of the country, that is your country, the person who's presenting the working paper, or you can also call this the author of the working paper, and the author cannot be more than 3 authors. Okay, and after the author, we come to topic or sub-agenda. The sub-agenda could either be the topic that we've discussed in our moderated caucus, or just any other subtopic that we want to bring to attention. Now, what happens in a working paper is that anything and everything under the topic that has been discussed in committee or that you want in the draft resolution has to be compiled. Okay, I have a sample working paper. Jasim, if I send it to you, please send it to. I'll send
Sure.
this. It'll be sent across to all the groups so you can
Sure.
see it.
Sure.
Yeah, so a working paper is basically all points written in bullet form. Okay, and try to keep it as short as possible, because long working papers are going to be more difficult for you if they get passed. Okay, so once this working paper is discussed in committee, they're discussed in many ways. Okay, they can be discussed as a moderated caucus, as in the topic of the moderated caucus will be the working paper. They can be discussed as a question answer session, or in our and we call it a face-off, where 10 questions can be asked. A face-off is basically a delegate is called to the dais and they are asked 10 questions. So when we are discussing a working paper, we can use the face-off method, or we can use an unmoderated caucus as well. But I suggest that an unmoderated caucus is not used because things get very hectic, and passing of a working paper is important, because when you pass a working paper, it automatically has to get added in the draft resolution. Okay, so that's about the working paper. It's pretty simple. It's there's no format to stick to, but it's always better and systematic, because it's very easy it's more comprehensible, and we can mark you guys better, basically. Okay, so that's the working paper. We are actually done with the majority part of our rules of procedure, but there are a few things that we have specially in our MUN. One is this thing called combat. Okay, so what happens usually in a debate is that our language is super and diplomatic, and we talk And we never address our opponent directly. We always address the chairperson while talking. So you might have thought, why do we use third person when we talk in a debate in an MUN? It is because we always face the chairperson while talking. We never look at delegate of China and say delegate of India believes that delegate of China. We look at the chairperson. We say the delegate of India believes the delegate of China is wrong in these ways. Okay, so that's one in mind. So in a combat, what happens is we can face our opponent and talk directly. Okay, so when we have a combat, we can do as much screaming as you want, be at the top of your mind, the top of your scream at the top of your lungs, but make sure that you're still diplomatic, because at the end of the day, the whole point of this exercise and the whole point of sitting for 3 days is to make sure that fruitful debate happens, not just screaming and calling each other monkey and all that. It's happened before, trust me. I've been in a committee where it was my Lok Sabha, and they mirrored their representatives a little too well. So I remember this so well. It was delegate of Bala. At that time, he was agricultural something, and he took a chair and he threw it. So don't do that. Don't throw chairs. Yeah, just don't.
I don't think it's a problem. They'll break their
Yeah.
own chairs. It's an online one.
Yeah, please break your chairs at home.
Yeah, you can do what you want. No problem.
Okay. So voting now. Okay, so let's understand how this voting happens. Let's say, for example, now everything that happens in committee has to be voted. A motion that has been presented has to be voted upon for it to pass or fail. A working paper has to be voted upon for it to pass or fail. Um, Moderated caucus, unmoderated caucus, and even impeachment, appeals, and yeah, and passing of the draft resolution. So let's say, for example, there are two types of votings. Okay, one is simple majority. Two types of majority. Sorry, one is simple majority, and the other is special majority. Simple majority, as I told you guys before, it's just 51%, and it applies to motions like moderated caucus, unmoderated caucus, passing of a working paper, and yeah, that's about it. But a special majority is 2/3 of committee strength. So let's say we have 60 people, we'll have 20 minimum, no, not 20, 40 for it to go through. Okay, so a special majority is used in the case of impeachment, and I hope you guys don't use this because all our executive board members are excellent. Impeachment is basically when you're throwing your uh, chairperson out. So you'll need a 2/3 majority, and we'll need 1 second, guys. So yeah, so special majority is used for a draft resolution and impeachment of your chair. So please don't impeach your chair. They're all very nice. So for you, let's say, for example, I am like a terrible chair to you guys. I've been like just so annoying to deal with. I don't know anything. I'm calling like Sri Lanka the biggest country in the world and all that. So you're like, oh, this useless fellow, we'll throw her out. So you will impeach me, and with a 2/3 majority and backing from the secretariat, that is your secretary general and director general, then I'll get thrown out. But I suggest that doesn't happen. Okay, so there's another point called an appeal. Okay, let's say, for example, you don't conform with my ideologies, or to put it in a more simple way, you don't agree with what my decision is. Let's say, for example, I decided to not give you a moderated caucus. I'm saying no. Jasim is raising a moderated caucus. I'm just like, no, no, Jasim. So he appeals to me saying that, please let me. So in an appeal, what happens is we have a private conversation. It comes to the dais in usually the delegate would have to come to me, to the chair, and talk to me directly. But since we're in this online forum, I'm guessing that we could just say it in front of everybody, I guess. So yeah, that is my rules of procedure. Okay, I have a few questions for you guys. Before I'm sure you guys are like totally annoyed by how much I've been talking, and I've tried to make this boring session as interesting as I could. And forgive me if I still sucked, but I just need 5 more minutes, and then I promise I'm done. And unless I'm your chairperson, you will never have to hear of me again. Okay. Uh, so how many of you are scared? How many of you are worried about what to do, how to research? How many of you are worried about just have no idea? And how many of you want to win? Okay, I'm going to give you that 30 seconds. I want responses. Jasim, tell me when we get responses.
Yeah,
Count and
sure.
tell me how many want to win,
Sure.
how many want.
So we have questions. If we impeach the chair, who will give points? So Vandita, personally, please do not impeach the chairs. I can't go find a replacement last minute.
So when I was what was I? I was one of the chairs got impeached, so I had to go and get replaced. I mean, that's the replacement. Usually, the Director General or the Secretary General, whoever's freer. But I suggest you don't, because I think everyone's really nice. And if you have a problem with the chair, just go and talk to them. And where usually, I mean, most of us are nice. I don't know. I've had terrible chairs, but I'm a nice chair. So if you feel like there's something that you need from me, or there's some way I can be better, I'm always open to people coming and telling me what I can do better. Okay. So have we gotten responses, Jasim?
Quite a few. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay. So all of these people want to
11.
win or lose?
They are
Okay.
nervous and they are really scared. I've never been good at research. I'm really nervous and I really want to win.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what if I tell you guys? Okay, tell you guys, I can actually help with this. Okay. So, I am having this. Okay. So I'm sure that this is very overwhelming. And when I was researching for my first MUN on the second day, because as I told you, I did not research on the first day. On the second day, when I was researching, I was just looking everywhere and I couldn't find any methods. I did not know how to research. I mean, there were people telling me to go look at your country policy, but I did not even know what that was. And I was not a dumb kid, but I still did not know what it was. So I used to always think, you know what, someone should have MUN classes. And I thought, I've been to like so many MUNs, and I've compiled like a lot of information along all these years. And I thought, you know what, that's exactly what I should do. I should have an MUN course. So what I'm doing is either tomorrow or day after, depending on the response I get, I'm going to have an hour or an hour and a half worth of class. It's going to be very interactive. It's not going to be like this where you're just looking at me talk. It's going to be very interactive. You guys can ask me questions and I'll answer them, and I'll ask you guys questions and I'll help you guys research. So basically what I'm going to be doing is I'll talk about researching skills. I'll talk about public speaking. I'll talk about how to what the executive board looks for. And this is something that I assure you, you're never going to find anywhere else. And you might think it's a waste of your 1.5 hour, but trust me when I tell you this. A lot of okay, moving on. I want to tell you my story. Okay, just one small story of this chubby fourth standard kid who used to never go up to stage, never ever go up to stage except for singing in the choir. I was terrible at public speaking. Okay. And then after a few um, months or years, I went for my first MUN, and then I suddenly found like this. It might sound like just something I'm telling you guys, but trust me, people who have known me for many years, might be a lot of you in the audience. I was very different from what I am now. And I'm very proud to say that I can now, if you give me a mic and give me 5,000 people to talk in front of, I will probably I might make a joke out of myself, but I'll be a confident joke. Okay. So why should you listen to me? I am just some random Sasha girl, some random girl who's telling you guys all these things about MUNs. So how am I different from you guys? Like I told you guys, I'm very much like you guys. But what sets me apart is that munning was my passion for a very long time. SAPMUN was actually um, my baby for 1 year, and I tried to convince people, and it took a lot to get SAPMUN to its second edition. And it was my hobby for 4 years. You will not believe this. You guys will not believe this. When my mother used to like scream at me, she would say, "Okay, no months for 2 months," because that's how much it like mattered to me. So out of all these years, I've been on your side as well. I've been on your side quite a few times, and I've been on this side now from quite a few years. And I've interacted with one of the most brilliant munning minds. And I have noticed a few things over the years, and I've compiled all of this. I've actually written down my tips and tricks that if you guys have trained under me before, you'll know that what my tips and tricks are. But the benefits of this course, it's going to be tops 2 hours. Okay. I'll have an hour, and half an hour break in between as well, to sit and write down your questions. So what you'll be looking at, what you'll be gaining from this, what you'll be taking away from my course is, first of all, how to increase diplomacy. It's not just very important for you to be very good at speaking. You need to be able to make sense as well. You need to understand how to research. Researching is something that every first-time delegate I know um, struggles with. It'll be very, very detailed. And it's basically like a MUN crash course, understand? So everything that you need to know about MUNs, everything about researching, you'll know. And I'll tell you exactly what the executive board looks for when they uh, listen to a speech, or how do we mark. So you can prepare based on marking schemes. And see, uh, you might think that this MUN is just an MUN for right now. But trust me, as you go on to college, and you guys are, I think most of you are in junior college. When you go to senior college and you start writing your papers, you start realizing that in school you just had like shitty projects that made no sense. They were all just substandard projects. So when you a lot of the researching skills that you will learn for an MUN is the same thing that you would use in college, or the paperwork patterns that you see now, the formats, how to do your paperwork, the tips for your paperwork, how to make your paperwork better is often what you use even in offices later on when you study. And a lot of these research points, a lot of you might want to do, become engineers, become doctors, become IAS officers and civil servants. And all of these require a lot of research. So effective research is one of the main points that I'll be stressing on. I'll be talking about how you can build your confidence, how you can be a little better, where to start, how to research, and it'll be very detailed. So I'm going to send a message to Jassim that he will circulate everywhere with my WhatsApp number. And if you guys are genuinely interested, trust me, I feel like I can help you guys out. And if you
Sasha,
guys want, huh?
yeah, I'm already getting a very good response on the comment section itself. There are a lot of people who are actually asking for you to do the MUN crash course, and they definitely want to be a part of it. So there are
Okay,
people
I'm
saying
very
it's
glad. But
it's
guys, I don't have a lot of space on my um, course, and it'll be a paid course, of course, because I'll be spending a lot of time. And these are something called, it might sound cringy as hell, but I call these my Sash hacks. Okay, that I have compiled from years and years of money, and talk to your parents about this, because it's not just about money. So if they come and tell you, see, you're just going for one competition, why do you need it? Tell them that this is not just about the competition. It's about becoming better presenters. See, you guys, a majority of you are going to be people who are going to join corporate jobs, who are going to do businesses, who are going to become doctors, engineers, people who are in the front line of things. And at all times, you will have to be able to present what your thought is, okay? Because unfortunately for humans, we have to use our mouth and we don't understand each other. So how do you increase your productivity just using your mouth? Okay, and see, and at the MUN point of view, um, for this MUN especially, if you want to win, I suggest that you come and listen to what I have to say, because of, let me give another example now. Is it easier to look for a toy when you know how it looks, or is a vague idea more important? When you know to look, so you say, okay, get the brown ball, you will go look for the brown ball, and only then you'll be able to hold the brown ball. Will you be able to hold the brown ball when they said get that round thing and there are 15 marbles there, there's one ball, there's a hula hoop, there is so many things. So I hope what I said today made a little bit of sense. If you guys do have more doubts, please note them down so that you guys can come and ask your executive board tomorrow. Because as much as I would love to sit and talk to you guys, I've eaten up an hour and a half of your time, and I'm sure you guys have things to do. So thank you, Jasim, for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks a lot, Sasha. Your examples were wonderful, and myself have got to know a lot of things. And I was like, damn, where did I miss out my last month? How did I do it without all these? Anyway, it was a very wonderful session, Sasha. Thanks a lot. I'm pretty sure it was a real help for all the participants as well. I have dropped my contact number below. You all can also text me on Instagram. You all can also text me on the SAPMUN Instagram account as well. If you all are like Sasha told, I'll be sending the messages to you all, the one which she sends to me.
Yes, and before leaving you guys, I want to tell you one thing. Don't be scared, because money as an opportunity is more about the 3 days that you spend, because you'll understand how different your perspective is. Trust me, if this is your first MUN, when you come out of it, you'll know so much more than you would have otherwise. So just focus on the learning, less on the winning. I'm not saying don't focus on winning. You should want to win, but understand that, see, I told you guys that if you want to win, come see my course. But there are, let's say, 150 of you, and I would love if 100 of you join. But not all 100 of you can win. But then again, it depends on what your definition of winning is. For me, I always tell my delegates, if you've been in my committee, I always ask you guys this one question at the end. If you learned something at the end of this that you will remember for the next year or the rest of your life, then I have won and you have won. Okay, so keep that in mind. Make sure that learning is the first thing in your head. Okay, best of luck, guys. I hope this experience makes you as addicted to money as I am.
Okay, Sasha, thanks a lot. I guess it's
Thanks,
time we
Jasim. Do I
wrap up.
just
Yeah.
switch this off?
Yeah. Okay, Sasha.